the Constitution, the Ceppa Act, and America's fight for democracy. It's time to act. Consider what has unfolded in recent weeks. What do the president and his cabinet have in common with a street cop in New York City? The same thing as every state and federal senator, every judge from county to Supreme Court, every county council, state governor, elected leader, police officer, military member, National Guardsman, U.S. Marshal, ICE officer, and Border Patrol. What do they have in common? They all swore a legally binding oath to not only uphold, but to defend the U.S. Constitution from all threats. People think that this is just a cute ceremony, but it's not. It's legally binding, and violating that oath is a crime. A federal criminal offense. And individuals employed in the United States government, including members of Congress and the president, or the military, can be charged with advocating the overthrow of the constitutional form of government if they violate the oath they took in good faith. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for direct action. For the only time in history, many of our leaders believe that loyalty to a leader outweighs the law. This is precisely what our founders warned against in all our founding documents, the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. They called it tyranny. We are suddenly under fascist authoritarianism. Look it up in the dictionary. All our rights and freedoms are being destroyed. Free elections, free speech, free press, independent courts, rights under law, the right to a free voting system, military in our streets, Trump informing the U.S. military that half the U.S. population are enemy combatants that will come under direct assault by the military, right in U.S. cities. A president declaring war on his own people? On September 30th, 2025, Donald Trump stood before an assembly of the top leaders of the entire U.S. military. 800 generals and admirals were ordered to Washington for the first time in history to speak about a war he expected them to fight. A war from within. Trump directed them to treat U.S. cities as enemy territory, that the U.S. military will practice lethal war in American neighborhoods. And he did it. This man has ordered troops into American cities. In fact, Trump deployed our U.S. 82nd Airborne Unit, who have flawlessly served our nation with honor for over 84 years, to use force on civilians in an American city. For no reason. And each of those soldiers, their commanders, and senior leadership have sworn the oath with their lives to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. But now they have to make a choice. We fully expect, in their long and flawless history of dying to defend the Constitution and protect U.S. citizens, that they will ultimately, as a unified group, approach their commanders and respectfully deny continued deployment within a civilian U.S. city in peacetime. Period. These troop deployments violate the U.S. Constitution, federal and state law, and 250 years of liberty. And those commanders know it. We expect that our commanders will support and carry this denial to their superiors, and that the commandant of the army will meet with his commanding comrades and devise a plan. Not a plan to, like Trump blurted, resign and lose their future, but to make clear, to leaders who have never sacrificed anything for anyone, what the historic penalty that dishonorable extra-legal leaders who illegally set their military against civilian populations will pay if this illegal behavior continues. Because, like it or not, those fools, who love to cosplay leadership, were addressing a combined 24,000 years of military academy, battle, and life experience when they got up and demanded 24,000 years of honor to break their oaths. Please, our nation and the world literally depend on what the 800 military leaders choose to do at this exact moment. And while our military leaders weigh their next move, we the people, in support of the same Constitution that our military has died defending, will begin a support and accountability campaign to back up their honored commitment to our United States. Because it's not too late, but we are damn close. We are not helpless yet. A plan has emerged. A plan of action to defend American democracy. It's called the Constitutional Enforcement, Protection, and Accountability Act of 2025, CEPAA, or Ceppa. Ceppa is the water to douse the flames of autocrats. We are under a coup. And Ceppa is the counter-coup by patriots loyal to the Constitution. Let me tell you about it. Because every American needs to know how we fight back legally but firmly to save our republic. All the quiet politicians need to pull their heads out of their asses and help set up and codify Ceppa into law. What is Ceppa? Purpose and major goals. Ceppa is a nationwide program to restore constitutional order in the United States. It is not just one law or one policy, but a coordinated strategy and call to action. Its purpose is simple: to call upon every American to demand accountability from our elected leaders and anyone else who swore the oath. A call of loyalty to stand up for the rule of law, to reaffirm the oath they swore to the Constitution, to refuse unconstitutional orders, and to hold those who violate their oath accountable. Because no matter what, these people won't be in control forever, and records are being kept. At its heart, Ceppa recognizes one essential truth. Every official in America, from the president on down, has sworn the oath to, quote, to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. A personal and legal commitment to the nation. Ceppa demands that all who swore the oath to the Constitution remember that it is legally binding and a prosecutable offense when violated. We expect that they reaffirm that oath, here and now, freely, of sound mind, and without duress, and actually act on it, like so many millions have, which kept our country free until this very day. In practical terms, that means if any leader issues an unlawful order, ordering troops into the streets to suppress peaceful protest, commanding an official to ignore a court order or arrest a political rival, or any decree that violates constitutional rights, those under that chain of command have a duty to disobey. Those in lateral co-equal branches of government have a duty to investigate and prosecute the offender, or face prosecution themselves. "I was just following orders" is no excuse. Not in American law, not in our military. Only lawful orders deserve obedience. Ceppa enshrines this principle across all levels of government. This is just a short description of an in-depth agenda to reset our wobbling steering wheels of democracy. Ceppa consists of a complete legislative-style book, which spells out every aspect of the act in legal detail. It approaches the act as a project, with goals, deliverables, schedules, stakeholders, instructions, public education, and a library of executable civil and legal forms for use by civilians, our military, our governors, and other elected leaders. Let me summarize Ceppa's major goals. Reawaken constitutional loyalty. First and foremost, Ceppa seeks to awaken the conscience of our public servants. Every person who holds office or wears a uniform must actively choose the Constitution over any autocrat's command. Ceppa calls for a public, witnessed reaffirmation of oath by officials at every level, essentially forcing them to answer, "Will you keep your promise to the Constitution, yes or no?" This creates a clear line in the sand, and it lets we the people know who will stand with us. It's easy for politicians to talk about the Constitution while violating it. Ceppa makes them put their name on the line as the first step. Protect citizens from unconstitutional acts. Ceppa's next goal is to shield ordinary Americans from any further unconstitutional abuses. It marshals the power of the federal and state governments, senators, governors, state legislatures, and state courts, as defenders of the people's rights when the federal government oversteps. This means blocking unlawful federal orders at the state line, preventing federal agencies from commandeering state resources to do illegal deeds, and ensuring that no American is forced to undergo or partake in a violation of their constitutional rights. In short, it's a defensive wall around our rights and our states, using lawful state authority to check lawless federal power. Accountability for violators. Ceppa also promises that those who have perpetrated these constitutional violations will face accountability. It's not enough to stop the wrongdoing. We must ensure it never happens again by bringing the violators to justice. Ceppa establishes independent commissions to investigate and document every breach of oath, creating an official record of what was done, by whom, and which laws were broken. 3637. With meticulous evidence, these cases can be pursued in courts or through impeachment, ensuring that no one escapes responsibility. The message is clear. If you break your oath and trample the Constitution, you will answer for it through lawful means. Restore the rule of law and our Republican government. Ultimately, the overarching goal of Ceppa is to restore our republic, to return the United States to the constitutional order our founders envisioned, where we the people govern through laws and elections, not through success means our next elections will be truly free from interference. Our military and police will remain protectors of the people, not instruments against them, which is a major pressure being forced upon our nation's best and bravest every day. The normal checks and balances of our Constitution will resume functioning. In other words, Ceppa is about ensuring the United States remains a constitutional democracy, not a dictatorship. These are big goals, as big as America itself. How can we achieve them? Ceppa lays out a comprehensive roadmap, 5 coordinated lines of effort to get us there. It mobilizes patriotic leaders at the state and local level, as well as within federal ranks, to take immediate and effective action. I will walk you through these 5 lines of effort, because together they form a powerful plan to save our country. The 5 lines of effort, steps to save the Republic. Ceppa's strategy is organized into 5 lines of effort, LOE 1 through LOE 5, each a critical front in the battle to uphold the Constitution. Think of it like a 5-pronged approach, engaging different groups of Americans in this cause. Here are the 5 LOEs and what they entail. Reassert constitutional authority. All loyal federal and state elected officials need to reaffirm their oath and force oath takers into compliance by every means at their disposal. LOE 1. Reassert state executive authority, led by state governors and local executives. Refuse compliance with illegal federal mandates. Cite the anti-commandeering doctrine. Forbid state law enforcement from cooperating with a federal roundup of peaceful protesters or a scheme to suppress votes. Under LOE 1, governors will also require all state officials and state National Guard officers to reaffirm their oaths to the U.S. and state constitutions. LOE 2. Activate state legal defenses, led by state attorneys general, state solicitors, and public interest lawyers. While governors provide the muscle and executive orders, the state legal teams will wage war in the courts, met with injunctions, court orders, and legal blockades, buying time and stopping abuses in their tracks. LOE 3. Legislative and policy countermeasures, led by state legislatures and supportive members of Congress where possible. This effort moves the fight into the halls of legislation, making new laws to reinforce our defenses. Under LOE 3, state lawmakers will pass bills and resolutions that codify the principles of LOE 1 and LOE 2. One of the first will be an oath reaffirmation resolution. LOE 4. Secure the line. Our military and law enforcement as defenders, not tools of repression. Led by patriotic National Guard commanders, state defense forces, local police leaders, and conscientious federal personnel. This might be the most critical line of effort. It addresses the muscle of enforcement. A dictator's orders mean nothing if no one will carry them out. LOE 4 ensures that America's armed personnel, soldiers, guardsmen, police, remain loyal to their oath and refuse to oppress their fellow citizens. Governors will issue a sweeping Refuse Unlawful Orders memorandum to all U.S. military, National Guard units, and state law enforcement agencies, making it crystal clear, any ord, or from any source, even the president must be evaluated for legality and constitutionality, and if it is unlawful, you are required to disobey it. That is what LOE 4 strives for. But as a last resort, let me note, if truly pushed to the extreme, say unlawful violence is being used against citizens, states can activate their defense forces to protect their people. The plan is peaceful, but it does not abandon the right of self-defense when faced with domestic violence against the states. The goal, however, is that it never comes to that no matter what orders are issued from the top, widespread non-compliance asterisk will thwart any authoritarian power grab. LOE 5. Oversight, transparency, and accountability mechanisms, led by independent commissions, the Ceppa commissions, working with civil society groups, journalists, and the public. This final line of effort is about shining a bright light on the truth and keeping it on, both to halt current violations and to ensure justice afterward. Holding violators accountable. How Ceppa enforces justice. One question you may be asking: how will Ceppa actually hold the bad actors accountable? After all, it's one thing to say no one is above the law, but we need to back that up with action. Rest assured, Ceppa has built-in mechanisms to make accountability real, not just aspirational. The violation of an oath of office is a federal criminal offense, and individuals employed in the United States government, including members of Congress, can be charged with advocating the overthrow of the constitutional form of government. First, as mentioned, Ceppa forces every official to take a side by confirming and reaffirming their oath. This isn't just symbolism. When an official swore their original oath, freely without duress, to uphold the Constitution, it closed the escape hatch of, "I was just following orders," or "I didn't realize it was wrong." If they then carry out an illegal order later, they have essentially perjured themselves. They have violated a sworn promise. That broken oath becomes evidence. For military members, disobeying the Constitution, even under command, is already disallowed, but this makes it overt. So one way Ceppa enforces accountability is by tightening the oath and making sure everyone understands it's a personal duty above all else. A call to action. Stand now for the Constitution. My fellow Americans, the hour is late, but it is not too late. Our Constitution, the liberties and system of government so many generations fought and died for, is in dire peril. But we are the heirs of Washington and Lincoln, of the soldiers who stormed the beaches of Normandy, and the marchers who braved Edmund Pettus Bridge. This is our test, our time to show that the American spirit is stronger than any would-be dictator or tyrant. The Ceppa program I've described here was a very short description of a thorough, legal blueprint. To our men and women in uniform, military, National Guard, police, and our intelligence and federal agents, remember that your highest loyalty is not to any politician or party, but to the Constitution and the people. You took an oath for moments exactly like this. We need you to reaffirm that sacred oath now, loudly and clearly. If you're asked to do something you know in your heart is wrong, to turn on your neighbors, to ignore due process, to help fix an election or silence a reporter, you must have the courage to say no. America is counting on your integrity.